What's up, Warport family? Your boy C-Dub here. Tonight, we're going to talk about Big Cat Weekend coming up this Saturday. We talk visitors. What are our expectations for this weekend? Who's likely to commit? Also, we'll be previewing the cornerback position as we get closer and closer to the start of the 2024 season in tonight's edition of the Midweek Report. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest Midweek Report. Me and Ike Jones are here rocking out with you guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Midweek Report, guys. Also, share this video, smash that like button. Please subscribe if you're new to us. We want to take the time to acknowledge our show sponsor, the Opelika Rage Room. Please head over to 1510 2nd Avenue, Opelika, Alabama. You see the zip there. Guys, you can get your rage out. There, you're free to break all types of random stuff from car windows. I think they got car seats, Ike. They got all types of stuff, especially at the Birmingham Rage Room. If you're in the Birmingham area, listen, man, sometimes life has you upset. You know, if you're a sports enthusiast, not a lot of sports going on right now, but if you just upset, head over to one of these two sites where you can get that rage out legally. Support those who support the War Report. Thanks again to Opelika Rage Room for being our sponsor. Also, you can get yourself a green name or gift a green name. I can tell you how to do that.
Real simple. That join button's there for you. If you want to join, man, you get all of the great film review we're doing. Y'all get the office hours with your boy, man. I'm trying to go live at least once or twice a week and just talk to y'all about whatever. It's been a good time, man. We actually are doing this live call-in style for the members, y'all. So if you want to like really be able to chop it up, you got to get them, be a member and get on board with that situation. Got a lot of film still left to do during this offseason for football, plenty of basketball film to do as well. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you could do that right now. Somebody get a free month of membership on you. And make sure if you maybe you don't like what we're doing over here at our channel, it's great. We got plenty of other people who can give you voices in the Auburn sphere. We are the Auburn Express on all podcast places. The Uptempo podcast is over there and the College Loop podcast. And if you want a more rounded SEC flavor, I'm cranking up my Just a Sec content for y'all next week. I promised after Big Cat, we're going to get into it. I've been planning it out. So we're getting into the SEC wide content next week on Just a Sec. So y'all can tap in with us over there and you will definitely not regret it.
Ike, we talking recruiting tonight. I know that hasn't been, one of the topics that you just...
I don't know nothing. So I don't say nothing when I don't know nothing. That's the best thing to do.
and usually, again, I never forget when, Falk was flipped from FSU. I remember you got real excited. You're a man of your word. You get excited about these recruits once they've signed.
When they sign, that's when I turn up right there.
Yeah, that's when you turn up. But a large contingency of our Auburn family are turned up now because they want to know who's coming to Big Cat. And I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Again, you said you don't know nothing, but I know somebody who do.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, I got Dukes the Scoop is joining us. Dukes.
Yo.
What's good, man?
What's up, baby? How you doing? What's up, C? What's up, Ike?
Yeah, man, ain't too much,
listen,
man. Appreciate
it.
Jumping on the live stream with us, man. It's been a while since we did this.
Everybody can't sit down and talk to Coach Prime and all over the
Kirby
country.
Smart. I see you got the Kirby Smart situation popping. You know what I mean?
God is good, ain't he?
Hey, man, God good, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, man. God popping his collar in your life. So hey, listen, I'm
man.
happy.
I don't get an opportunity to say it. I do get an opportunity to say it, man. We got to say it in front of the art, man. I'm proud of you, man, for doing all the hard work, man. Continue to do your thing, man. Definitely proud of the work you're doing over there, man.
Man, much appreciated, and the same to y'all, man. You know, it ain't everybody who can have people doing $5.99 subscriptions because they content is that good. So hey, man, hey, I know I can't. So hey, man,
I'm sure
if
you decided you wanted to do it, somebody will pay for it, man. You got the scoops. That's what they want.
I tell you what, man. It may, hey, we might have to finish some of them conversations we've been having.
Yeah, let's make it happen, man.
Indeed,
sure.
indeed. Listen. Let's get into talking about Big Cat. It's a big weekend, Dukes, as you already know. This Saturday's Big Cat weekend has been one of the larger recruiting. It is the largest recruiting weekend to me of the year for Auburn, where a lot of the big targets are coming onto the plains, hanging out for Saturday. Some guys are coming in on Friday. Before we get into the visitor list and what you expect, State of the Union, how do you perceive where Auburn is currently right now? I think they're right outside the top 10 in terms of, depending on what site you're looking at. Hugh Freeze wants Auburn, and he's aiming for a top 5 recruiting class. Kind of where do you think this staff stands right now?
I think you see Auburn recruiting ways. They like to make a splash when they do recruit. I think there are some guys who may be silently committed right now that they feel really good about that they'll be revealing soon. I know some. I'm positive there's going to be somebody committed at Big Cat. I don't know who. Somebody's going to commit that Big Cat for sure. And I just like the way they're positioned based on how early it is in the cycle and how well they're already doing. You got to think, in previous years, the past 3 to 4 years, when it was at this time of the year, we were in, Auburn was in the 20s, or, now you see Auburn moving into that top 10, top 12 range right now, and they haven't even hit their second win yet. This is just their first round of guys. So when you look at the guys, when you look at that Big Cat visitor list, I mean, 6 or 7 more recruits is going to be huge. And I think the most important part of all of this is the offensive lineman recruiting. It's been an Achilles heel for Auburn for years and years and years. It's not recent. There's always been an issue with the offensive line recruiting. And even last year, I said 2025 was a must-have class because this is probably one of the deepest O-lineman classes in recent history. Yeah. Auburn had to do something, and they went out, showed and proved, and they're picking their guys. They're not just getting the low-hanging fruit. They're getting guys specifically for what they want to run. So shout out and kudos to Jake Thornton for identifying the people that he wants, the athleticism that he wants, and capitalizing on it by, closing the deal. Right now, getting people to go verbal or getting people to go public is better than not. I know a lot of times we don't get excited until signing day, especially Ike, and I don't blame him. I mean, shoot, matter of fact, like just a reference to Ike's point, had an interview with Kirby Smart earlier, and I asked him last year, I said, hey, when did you know you were getting KJ Bolden? He said, I didn't know I was getting him until he signed. He said, I didn't celebrate until he signed the dotted line. So when he came out and he told us he may come and all of this other stuff, I didn't celebrate until he until he signed the dotted line. And I think that's very fair. But in this case, where we like to read tea leaves and we want some type of indicator of how the class is going to end up, I think if you have a top 5, top 6 class on paper going into signing day, it's going to be really hard for you to fall out of the top 10. So I think that by getting these verbal pledges, I think it does wonders for the program and just to boost the morale and to let people know that Auburn is now a destination place. As over the past few years, it's been, we can't get a 5-star. Lord help us. But now he's recruiting Hugh Freeze's staff. They're recruiting with the juggernauts in the game. So I think it's a big deal.
I think you make a good point, too, about the fact that Auburn has 16 commitments at this point. And then to your point, in years past, Auburn would have like 6 or 7. It would be further down in the recruiting rankings. And then the concern would be, Auburn needs some momentum. And I think you have enough momentum to where you're in the conversation already with another group of guys who are either, silently committed or leaning Auburn's way. Let's talk about a couple of those guys. 2 guys who are expected to be a Big Cat: 4-star safety Anquan Fegans of Thompson, And this is an area that Auburn has had very difficulties recruiting in years past. They got a signee there last year. It is almost like this is starting to become a bit of a pipeline for Auburn. Well, Anquan Fegans, who many people have actually considered an Auburn lean already. Auburn has been in good position for him. You also have from Thompson, Jared Smith. Depending on what site, he may be a 5-star, 4-star, but he's an edge player. One of the top players in the state. Your thoughts about those two guys who are expected to be a big cat and where Auburn sits for them?
Yeah, I think Auburn has struggled a little bit recruiting Thompson, but they also didn't have Charles Kelly, who had this when he was at Alabama. He did not struggle recruiting Thompson, and he didn't struggle anywhere in the state of Alabama. So having Charles Kelly on the trail, who has a lot of familiarity with the family, based on his brother's recruitment. Then you think about where I definitely talked to Coach Kelly. I looked at it. He kind of lit me into his recruiting board, and we just kind of swapped notes about who we liked at safety. And Anquan Fegans was the number one guy on this board. Then it didn't matter who, what, where, what, nothing. No ranking. It was his board. And what Coach Kelly likes about Anquan, or AKA New Boy, what he likes about New Boy is his versatility positionally. If you look at the great defensive backs that Charles Kelly has had, and I'll just go to two. We'll go first. We'll talk about three. We talk about Jalen Ramsey, who was able to play all over the secondary, safety, corner, and slot. We talk about Derwin James, who was able to play all over the secondary, safety, corner, and slot. And we talk about Brian Branch, who had a phenomenal rookie year with the Detroit Lions last year. And what was he able to do? Play safety, perimeter, and slot. So I think New Boy is one of those guys who has that type of athleticism. He has the feet that Charles Kelly is looking for. When another thing that he really loves is to see guys who have great feet and who can play a little basketball. He said, and these are guys who can play basketball. When we talk about a guy like Jared Smith, he's a 5-star in my eyes. Like you said, depending on where you look at, when you look at his length and his lower bend, I always say if you got a guy that tall who can shrink himself, that gives you the ability to play the long arm game, and it also allows you to put your foot in the ground and make a diagonal and get to the quarterback at an angle. And I think that's really hard to do when we talk about turning the corner. Once you're able to get that lean, you put that foot in the ground. So imagine this. You got a 6'6" guy who can long arm the offensive tackle, pull him, or drag technique, drop the shoulder, get around the corner, and still get there with explosion. That's what Jared Smith is, and that's what he projects as one of those type of guys. His body is still lean. He has a lot of room for him to grow, and I don't think he'll lose his speed or his explosion. I saw him at the Under Armour camp in February. He looked like a man amongst boys against the top players in the country. So, yeah, I think sometimes I think some sites are looking at Jared Smith and saying, well, his frame isn't as developed as it could be when you look at, as far as his 5-star status, but nobody is saying that he's anywhere outside of that range, and nobody's going to put him outside of the top 50. I don't care who it is. So I think those are two huge additions to the defense, especially Jared Smith. If they can pull this off, Auburn hasn't had one of those game changers in a minute. Keldrick Faulk was by himself. Being able to stack a guy like this with the Keldrick Faulk for him to learn from, and you see how Keldrick Faulk developed. Now he can play seriously on the defensive end, because at first we thought he could have been a stand-up linebacker. Right. But now the way his body is developed, you see something different in him. I think Jared Smith has the same thing, but I think he is going to be more of a pass rusher just based off where he is right now. But I think when Auburn is good, they always have a dominant defensive lineman, and you don't know who it's going to be. I remember the year Nick Cole was dominant. Before the next year, he didn't do as well, but that year that Nick Cole was dominant, you could tell. The year when you had Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, you could tell. When you had Nick Fairley, you could tell. And I think that when Auburn is good along the defensive line, the record follows, and there are a lot of wins and a lot of toilet paper is thrown. So I think those are two of the more important recruits, but more importantly, I think Jared Smith is a must-have.
And he definitely has the height to fill out, even if they don't think he has the size right now. So, again, put him in the strength and conditioning program. I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, give it to Coach Dom, man. Like, Coach Dom, one of the best in the business. So, yeah, you give him to Coach Dom. He's going to be fine.
Yeah. A guy who is expected to be – let's talk some possible flips here.
Okay.
Let's start. I've been hearing that wide receiver Derek Smith, who's a Bama commit, but he's someone who's been on Auburn's radar early in the recruiting cycle. I think he's out of Selma, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
He is expected to be at Big Cat, and apparently Auburn is still in after him pretty tough. You know anything about this situation here with Derek Smith?
Yeah, I think Auburn got after it pretty hot and heavy early on. I think that they stayed in the recruitment. I think Coach DeBoer at Alabama and his staff did a great job of getting him up there. And what they've been able to do really well at Alabama is being able to capitalize on their visits. And that's one of the guys where he left a visit, boom, I'm committed. Surprised a lot of people. But Auburn stayed in it. They never wavered. And now you're getting to visit the Big Cat weekend as he is committed to Alabama, which says a lot in itself. He may be the most athletic player in the class in the state of Alabama this year. Truly athletic, plays a lot of sports. Basketball, track, doesn't matter. Also, when you look at what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, that's where he has a lot of shake, great hips, and he can play some safety too. I mean, he's a guy who actually has real two-way potential. I think he's really important. I think that Auburn has a really good shot here. And I think as long as they stay the course, if you start to see the Jared Smith, if you see Malik Archer, so Malik Archer, who's now a 5-star, he'll be there. Okay, so you keep Malik Archer in state. Okay, now you get Jared Smith to stay. Then maybe can you get a Zion Grady to come along? Like now you got Eric Winters, and then you start to look at the top 10, New Boy Fagans. Then you start to look at the top 10 in Alabama, and you start to see more blue and orange than you've seen in a long time. That starts to wear on people where it's a wave. Alabama, when they began to dominate the state of Alabama, they had the wave. It was cool to go to Alabama. The blue and orange didn't look as good. And then you also have to realize one thing, and I always say this, a 17-year-old right now does not remember Auburn being dominant. They don't. Right. They don't remember the Cam Newton year. That was in 2010. That was 14 years ago. They were 3.
Right.
In 2014, well, kick 6, 2013, 2014, that whole era right there, they were 7. Like they don't remember. So it's really important for them to have proof of concept of real guys, 5 stars, 4 stars wanting to go, and Auburn being the dominant program when it comes to recruiting in the state. And I think that's going to have a lot to do with it. So if Auburn does have a chance to get a guy like Derek Smith, it's going to be because they're showing proof of concept that talented players and highly ranked guys want to go to Auburn.
Another guy, Naeem Offord, Ohio State commit. He's visited Auburn before. Hugh Freeze has been really wanting this guy, and I think I've heard he's going to be at Big Cat. Your thoughts about this one? Is this even doable here?
I mean, a lot of people don't know if he's going to be if they see Naeem actually leaving the state. Ohio State is a long way to go, but speaking of Naeem and his father, like they really like Tim Walton and the old school vibes he brings. They're not really into the recruiting process as much as people may think they are. They really just want to play ball. You think about Naeem's brother, Mekhi Hughes, who's the running back in Tulane, had 1,300 yards last year. All Conference USA. What conference is AAC, I believe. Whatever conference Tulane is in. And apologies for the Green Wave, but all conference performer. And this year, when he had a chance to go to the portal, he could have went anywhere he wanted to. There were whispers about guys who wanted to make offers for this running back. He stayed where he was because their family believes in old school principles. So I think that if the Auburn has a shot, it's going to be because of Coach Crown, Coach Griff, and his old school principles. That's the only way I see Auburn having a shot because Ohio State is doing a bang up job recruiting him. They keep recruiting him. When I was his host at On3 Elite Media Days. At the On3 Elite Summit in Nashville in May. And when I'm looking at his phone, I'm looking at the text messages. It's Tim Walton. That's who he wants to talk to. That's who he's hitting. And I saw other names in his phone, and I'm looking. He said, "Hey man, Coach Walton crazy. Look at what he said." So he has a good relationship here, but it's going to take a lot because he is like that. Like make no mistake about it. He's one of the better cornerbacks I've seen in recent memory. Has really good explosion, great ball skills, and he will come up and hit you. So I think that if Auburn has a shot, it's going to be on that combination of Coach Kelly and Coach Crime Dog.
All right. I think I got here. Auburn wants to sign another running back, or they want to get another running back into this class, right? Alvin Henderson is your shifty guy, but you want a guy who's a definite run through the tackles kind of guy. And I think that brings us to running back Usman Chroma out of Georgia. Now, you know something about this guy. You know something about this guy. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, he comes from a football factory in Lee County, South Georgia, not too far from Albany, Georgia. That he plays that old school down south football, smash mouth, invites contact, built like an Avenger already. He can pass for Black Panther. He's one of those guys who just really just looks the part. One of the guys that you want to send off the bus first. Likes Auburn. Auburn had a really slow start recruiting him, so there was a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth. But since Derek Nix has been there, he loves him, and I think that's why you're seeing more motion with Usman Chroma. You're going to see more. You're going to see Georgia push for him, I believe, as the season as the recruiting cycle starts to evolve, and you see his senior film, and you see him put it all together. I mean, he looks different now than he did last year. He's put on more weight. I'd venture to say he's going to play college football at around 225 pounds. I think he has that type of frame. But I think Auburn has a good shot there. Another guy is Dwayne Morris out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Southern Cal commit. So I think out of those two guys, and I think Shakai Mills-Knight is another guy. But I think Chroma is probably the most wanted on that list. And then Dwayne Morris will probably be next. But I think of those three running backs, you'll see one of those three. If not committed at Big Cat, you'll see one of those guys in the class.
Zion Grady is someone who the staff was after, and I think it came as a surprise when he committed to Ohio State several weeks back. He's expected. Rumor is he's going to be a Big Cat. Your thoughts about where this staff stands with Zion? Obviously, this staff does not give up easily when a kid commits elsewhere. They're still after him hot and heavy. Your thoughts on where Auburn stands with him?
I think as the board continues to break down, you want to get two, but you want another defensive end who can fill out. I think if you get Jared Smith, you still go after Zion Grady because you got to have guys in the takes bodies. You want to be able to keep guys fresh, and I think that's why you continue to recruit a guy like that who may have a similar frame to Jared Smith. Both of those guys are in the 6'6" range. But when you start to look at guys start to recruit by profile, it starts to remind you of the Alabamas. When one guy goes out the game, you replace him with another one. You don't see a drop off in physicality or speed or explosion. And I think that's what Auburn is trying to do by recruiting two guys who have a similar frame. But I think Zion, I think Ohio State is a little far for him to go. He's not afraid to go. I'm not saying that, but if you continue the momentum that they have right now, and you start, like I said earlier, I know Malik Archery's been recruiting them. There are guys in the state of Alabama that are talking about playing together. You talk about Eric Winters, who he's played with before. Like these are guys who are saying, "Hey man, hey, Auburn is the wave." If you see, I'm telling you, Auburn is a powder keg right now. All they need is to light that match. The winning is the match that needs to be lit. Auburn win 9 games this year. I'm calling it right now, top 4 class. They win 9 and win a big one, top 4 easy. I take it to the bank. But if you don't win, then these things, it starts to look like, hey, coach, where's the improvement? Because the roster is clearly better than it was last year. And then you're going to have more questions. So I think it's dependent on winning. But yeah, as far as just recruiting goes, I think Auburn has a really good shot at Zion Grady, just as good as a shot as anybody in the country.
Before we get to quarterback, I'm trying to think who else I got listed here. Let's just talk about quarterback. The quarterback situation. Auburn obviously spent a lot of time with Juju. And it seems like they have cooled on Juju for now.
Sure.
They're trying to get either Deuce Knight, KJ Lacey, one of those QBs to show up for Big Cat. Your thoughts about QB recruiting right now? Would you be surprised if one of those guys walked through the door at Big Cat weekend?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think, but I wouldn't be alarmed if they didn't. Reason being, they're both committed to other schools, and there may be some more things that need to be done. You don't want to jeopardize a good thing based on a maybe. I think as Auburn starts to zero in on their guy and make them more comfortable, then you'll see guys start to be more public about their intention of going to Auburn. Because you got to think about it. It's like you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship with somebody. Well, you don't want to piss off the bird in the hand because you're chasing one in the bushes. So at the end of the day, but if you know you got a bird in the bush, then you're willing to go explore. So at the end of the day, I think that's kind of what it is. I think as Auburn started, like there was no question if Juju was Auburn's guy. Even though he was committed to USC, he knew that if he wanted to commit to Auburn, he was going to be the guy. And that cost you a little bit with Deuce Knight, because at the end of the day, Deuce Knight wasn't the guy. It was Juju. Juju was the guy that they wanted. So now they try to, go to the next level. I mean, just imagine you and you're a top flight quarterback, and there's a guy, and you say, well, for the past few months, you haven't really been talking to me. You've been talking to this guy. And now that you don't think you're getting this guy, you're coming to me. So I think it is a little bit of an uphill battle, and I think they're going to have to do a really good job of a little bit of damage control. Think about KJ Lacey. Yeah. It feels like KJ Lacey would have walked to Auburn if they would have recruited him earlier in the process. But it's going to be hard. I mean, when you get a guy like Steve Sarkisian that says, come play for me, you feel that want. You feel like, hey, man, this ain't chopped liver. Yeah. This is the University of Texas. So I think, Auburn does have some ground to make up. But I wouldn't be surprised if either one shows, but I wouldn't be alarmed if they don't.
And it's interesting you say you wouldn't be alarmed, because I think a lot of Auburn fans would be alarmed if a quarterback doesn't show up for Big Cat. And I think there's a contingency of Auburn fans who feel as though you need another QB in this class, considering the competition that's going to take place after Peyton Thorne leaves after his final year on the Plains. But your thoughts about that in terms of where Auburn post Big Cat intends to approach QB recruiting?
They're gonna get a quarterback, and then there's some quarterbacks that may not be on the message boards and may not be, on Auburn Twitter or the Reddit boards or any of that, or Discord, that Auburn is looking at. To be guys develop their senior year. Every year we see guys that have this magical senior year. We just saw with Keelan Russell, the Alabama quarterback who was committed to SMU. He barely had any offers, and then all of a sudden, he grew an inch. Oh, his body filled out. Oh my God, now he's Elite 11 MVP. Like, stuff happens. We're talking about teenagers who develop rapidly. So I think there are going to be some guys who are going to spring up the boards, and they're going to say, man, I don't know how do we miss this guy? So I think even if you don't get one of the name brand guys now, and I call them name brand because of the familiarity we have with their names already, but just because you don't get one of those guys don't mean that you won't get a guy. Like you see every year there's a guy that pops up. Holden Garrett popped up. Hank Brown popped up. Like, there are guys that they're going to say, okay, we think that he could play in this system, and I think that given the right opportunity, they have the ability to be successful. And I think that Hugh Freeze does want to recruit a high school quarterback. And if you saw like the way Auburn did last year, they could have took two quarterbacks. They chose not to. They literally could have had Aaron Nolan and Walker White. Walker White was their guy. So I think once Hugh Freeze locks in on his guy, and I think he does want a guy with a certain level of athleticism, I think once he locks in on his guy, and it remains to be seen, we don't know who the guy is right now. We're speculating. But we knew when it was Juju. So I think as time goes, we'll start the quarterback, the smoke will start to reveal itself, and we'll be able to read the tea leaves. But I 1,000% believe that Auburn gets at least one quarterback in this class.
So you expect? I'm thinking. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers out here, dude. Because I mean, I don't know. Like Ike, I don't know nothing. But if I had to guess, I would expect there to be two commitments this weekend. One from the 2025 class, one from the 2026 class. Because you got some guys who are pretty heavy and leaning Auburn's way from the 2026 class as well. You got guys like Hezekiah Harris. You got guys like linebacker Jermichael Garrett. So there's some names even now for the 2026 class that's going to be. I expect Auburn to get one of those. But again, we already talked about Jared Smith, Anquan Fegans, who decides a little bit after Big Cat weekend. Obviously, they're probably going to hold on to their date so they can have their moment in the sun and not commit when other guys may be committing. But you said you think there may be you expect to see a commitment.
Yeah, I think you can see. I think you'll see maybe at least two, maybe three. I think by the end of the month you see at least four. Like before the start of the season, you'll see four to five guys commit to Auburn before the start of the season. I put that right now. I think Blake Woodby is another guy you got to watch who could be on commit. Watch the cornerback. I think he's a guy that Yep. I think he's the guy that could commit. What's my man? Hezekiah Kent, another guy. Am I saying that right?
Harris.
Yeah, Hezekiah is somebody else who I think that could commit. And yeah, I just think that right now you're going to see it happen in the wave. It's going to be for a few days. You're going to see it's going to be Auburn. Just kind of the same way you see this wave of crystal balls is the same thing you're going to see when it comes to commitments. You're going to see Hayes Fawcett, Auburn. Hayes, I just talked to Hayes. Hayes said he's like, yeah, he put a tweet out the other night.
Yeah, saying, I saw his tweet saying that there's going to be quite a few Auburn situations popping off here.
I don't know if you guys remember maybe a couple weeks ago, you might have seen it. I said, man, Alabama's cooking. And then right after that I said, but so is Auburn. Big Cat Weekend is going to be big. And Alabama fans just went crazy. Like, Big Cat Weekend ain't gonna be big. And then I'm like, bro, listen, I just gave y'all props, bro. I'm not being biased. But if you think that Hugh Freeze can't do nothing else, he can recruit. We have seen that time and time again. If you think Auburn's not gonna get their share, you crazy. And as they start to get, and I'm telling you right now, what happens on the field remains to be seen. But when it goes into leading up to the field, Auburn's gonna stay around that top 10 range for the entire cycle. Like even right now, after Alabama did everything that they just did, and Miami's done what they just did, and LSU is done what they just did, Auburn is still 12. So as they start to get some of these more highly ranked guys, you're going to see the player average continue to rise with the overall commitment go up too. So, man, Auburn is in a really good spot, man. And I think by the end of the month, you see 4 to 5 guys, and I think 2 to 3 for Big Cat.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about we will wait to see how Big Cat Weekend unfolds, but it's looking pretty promising. Again, I think we got Auburn has a coaching staff that knows how to close, know how to get kids in and show them something and get in their ear. The season remains to be seen what Auburn does on the field to secure some of these higher sought out recruits. We'll wait and see to be determined. But appreciate Dukes being on. He's going to hang out with us. We're going to talk a little bit about position groups, particularly the cornerback position. Duke's going to hang out with us. You are watching the Midweek Report. Again, y'all, please be sure to share this video, smash the like button, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're going to pay some bills and come back and talk cornerbacks.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Thank you to all the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who have joined the Green Name Gang. We appreciate y'all so much. We got plenty of great content coming for you guys over the rest of the summer as we get into the season. So make sure you guys are locked in. If you are not Green Name Gang, maybe somebody from the gang wants to gift you a membership. We haven't had a gifted membership at all today, man. So, maybe somebody wants to go in there and donate a couple of dollars so someone else can get the benefits of coming in and being part of the membership family. We're almost at the season, so it's that time to start ramping this thing back up. Speaking of things that it is time to do, it's the summertime, and it's a sizzle alert this summer, y'all. This summer, let the only thing smoking at your barbecue be the grill, not your grooming game. Get ready for the ultimate cookout season with Manscaped. Whether you are flipping burgers or cannonballing into the pool, make sure your meat looks neat. That is crazy. That is an absolutely crazy phrase right there. With the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, fire up your grooming routine and keep it cool with Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com and use code RAPPORT for 20% off and free shipping. Make this summer sizzle for all of the right reasons. And since you guys asked for it, teaming up with Manscaped are the folks over at JOYMODE. Let's call out the obvious. Everybody wants to head into the bedroom with confidence and feel like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our thoughts get in the way of our performance, or maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. What are your options? Pick up a sketchy gas station pill or get prescribed drugs with a long-lasting side effect. That's where the friends at JOYMODE come in. Imagine a supplement you can take with your favorite green packet that gives you the extra dose of confidence and saves you embarrassment and hassle of a traditional erection pill. Also has the great benefits of helping you with your cardiovascular system to pump blood more seamlessly and effectively to areas of your body that need it, whether you're during workouts, sexual activities, or regular daily exertion. Make sure you head over to usejoymode.com and you get 20% off and free shipping again when you use code rapport. So, we got you covered. If you just need to trim it up, we got you covered. Whether you need help getting it up, we got y'all in the game here, man. Over at the War Report, man. Code Report gets y'all ready, man. So make sure y'all lock in with the folks and have a great time out there this summer, man.
Clearly, we're here for you, and when it comes to that, we got you. We got you. All right. And we talk football. All right. Yeah. So let me get to some of the comments before we get into the second part. Damian Prentice says office hours was lit yesterday. What y'all talking about in office hours, right?
I think everybody just enjoyed the call-in aspect of it, man. Like being able to actually hear people's voices and not just read the comments. And we had like the most calls we've ever had on the office hours yesterday. So it was about, I was on for like 2 hours yesterday, which normally I don't do more than like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So yeah, it was cool, man. We had some really good conversations. And what I like the most about people calling in is I get the opportunity to hear their voice, hear their, like right now, Marion is in the comments saying some wild stuff, right? Like, I'm just like, yo, what are you talking about, bro? But like, if he was on a call, I'd have an opportunity to actually have a conversation with him. So I could say, oh, I get what you're saying. That's still terrible, but cool, right? Like, so I could hear it. But when it's in this comment section, I can't do that. So it's always a good time being able to do that sort of thing, man. And I enjoy it. Enjoy having the conversations with the people.
Word. And Robinson says, I'd rather have Mills Knight, referring to the running back situation. Cool. All right. We have already talked about, we've talked linebackers,
defensive
line, and the edge position.
Yeah.
The buck position, right? So now we're going to talk cornerbacks. So, Dukes, we obviously you're gonna hang in here and give us some of your thoughts about who's returning, who's coming into this room. Ike and I were talking about this, and I asked Ike a question.
Hold on, before we get into that, correct me if I'm wrong. You played DB, right? I thought you when you played DB a little bit.
What you play, Dukes?
I ain't playing that, man. I play party.
I thought you was a high school football guy, man.
I played.
I mean, yeah, man. I was.
I ain't talking about in college. I know you went in.
Okay.
I'm talking about high school.
I mean, yeah, man. Little DD, little receiver, not nothing too strong.
No, he's trying to be.
All right. Look, so I mean, I went to school. All right. So for those that don't know,
man, come on, man.
But, all right, so I was a decent athlete, but all right, come on.
All right, yeah.
All right, bro. All right. Hey, man, you don't even like talking about it. But look,
them be the good ones, like them be the really talented dude.
Yeah, it was something slight, man. You know what I'm saying? Had like 2 or 3 picks in one game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but
they was with the couple pick sixes.
Like I do remember Ike popping his head in that act. So yeah. See, you was coming there a little bit too, didn't you?
No,
you ain't never go to the act. I know I seen you in the act before.
I stayed in the act, bro. I was hooping.
I'm about to say, we used to hoop. Yeah, say no more. Yeah. I know. I used to be in the act. So now, I know a little bit more than anybody else. So okay, don't put me on the spot no more though.
Hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, man. As far as like DB work, man, just like we were just talking about being in the act, and so Ike probably saying like, well, damn, Duke, you probably play a little DB because he seen me hoop before. All right, did. So when like I talked about earlier, with the person on that roster at the DB position that Charles Kelly really likes is Antonio Kite. Reason being, he said he may be the best basketball player on Auburn's football team. Feet,
he likes the athleticism.
Hips, the athleticism, and being able and feet that translate. See, there are a lot of guys who they're really athletic and they're really choppy, but they're really stiff. Feet that translate is being able to have functional mobility when it comes to playing different positions within the scheme. I think that man-to-man coverage, Kite is going to be one of those people that his feet and his hips allow him to be more successful than some of the other guys. He may not have the long speed of a Keontae Scott, or he may not have the physicality of a Kayan Lee, but I think that as a third corner, he's exactly what you need, especially somebody who has some experience, who's been through the rigors of the Alabama program, and now he's having that same mentality at Auburn with Charles Kelly. Plus, you think about the old school nature of what they have in the secondary with the Charles Kelly and a Coach Crime-led secondary. So, yeah, I definitely think Antonio Kite is somebody that's going to give us quality minutes, that is going to give Auburn quality minutes. Y'all got to help me with that. That's going to give Auburn quality minutes. And but, yeah, I'm excited for the DB room. I think the injury to Tyler Scott is going to hurt a little more than what people know it is.
We were just talking about that before we got on, man. Like the depth is not where you would want it to be in the DB room right now.
Now you're really an injury away, like from being really in a bad position. Like you think about last year, we found out about Kayan Lee, and he was thrown into the fire, but he had rough games. I think the roughest game was probably
struggles.
I think LSU was probably the roughest, but you're talking about him guarding a first-round receiver too.
A lot of people had rough games against LSU.
I'm
gonna forgive him on that one.
On the island field side, I mean that's tough for an 18-year-old. But now I think he like, but that play, even when I talk to him, that's the one we talk about. It's ruminating in his mind. He's not gonna let that happen again. I think he's gonna be one of the better corners in the league this year.
Yeah, I like the way the kid competes, man. Like you said, the physicality is there. He doesn't necessarily have the speed of some of the other guys in that room, but he's gonna compete when the ball's in the air. If he's there, he's got great ball skills. I like what he brings to this room as far as just the tenacity, and then he studies the game too, right? Like I talked to some guys in the wide receiver room about like who do they not like going up against in practice, and he's a guy. The biggest compliment you can give from a wide receiver to a DB that I've heard is even if I beat him, he doesn't let it get him down like that. They talk about the short memory you have to have at certain positions. DB is one of those positions you got to have a short memory. Okay, I got beat last time. I bet you won't beat me this next. Like he's like right up off the mat. Let me compete again. Let me get extra reps in after practice so I can make sure I understand how I need to be playing this coverage type stuff. Man, he's that kind of guy. So I'm looking forward to him having a good season this year for sure.
Vernon Speaks Sports, appreciate you jumping in.
Family.
Let me grab this one real quick. Vernon Speaks Sports, appreciate you jumping in, hanging out with us. Been a minute since we've seen you, man. Welcome. Dukes, you was talking about he comes from a good football family?
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's got a little brother playing at Stockbridge, Mylan Lee, who's pretty good. He's a little smaller than Cam. But when you look at how his dad raised those guys, they were born and bred football players. Like it ain't nothing else they were gonna do. Now not to say they couldn't, but that's just what they chose, and that's what they were gonna go in. The line that they were going to go into, and I think you see that in the work ethic. Like when you hear guys say, I think a lot that goes into playing as a true freshman is being able to be trusted with the playbook. Being able to digest everything. And there are guys, you can't have those mental lapses. You can't have, oh man, my bad, I'm not used to it. That doesn't work in the SEC. And so I just think that's another testament to Kayan Lee. I think that Keontae Scott is primed for a big year at corner. I'm really interested to see how he plays in that position full time, because now it's a necessity. Before it was a luxury. Now it's a necessity. Right. He doesn't have a choice anymore. Colton Hood leaving was big.
That's something else we were just talking about before we got on, man. You would hope to be able to keep one of those guys, JD or Colton, losing both, pushing a bad way.
Yeah. I mean, it did hurt, but I think you got guys. I think Caleb Harris is a guy that may be able to that you can maybe slide to the star position a little earlier, and maybe be able to move a guy like Champ Anthony into maybe more of a corner role to give you some relief. But there's going to have to be, and I think that's what I was saying about what Charles Kelly likes to do. The guys he's recruiting can help you everywhere. They don't want to be in a bad position. You don't want to get in this position where you have only corners, because right now, if you think about only corners, you really got 4, and that ain't enough. You really need 6 to feel comfortable. They got 4 corners.
Let's take a look at the room as this is right now. This is who Auburn currently has on the roster. So we just talked about a lot of these names: Keontae Scott, Kayan Lee, Tyler Scott, of course, who had the ACL injury. JC Hart, who I was impressed by JC Hart at the A-Day game, the way he was out there competing. Now he is the guy. He is the burner in that room. Like, that's the guy who can really. He can pick him up and put him down for you. Champ Anthony, Coach Freeze can't say enough good things about Champ Anthony and the leadership he brings and the competitiveness that he brings. A lot of special teams work last season, but he's, of course, walk on for the team. Jay Crawford, the true freshman, he is another guy who competes really well. Had a rough spring game, if we're being honest, but he was going up against that guy for a lot of it. So, he's one of those guys who gonna make a lot of people look bad. On
that's only gonna make him better, though.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it. You're going up against some of these guys in that wide receiver room as young guys. You're gonna get an opportunity, because we're just talking about depth issues. Like, you have no choice but to go get reps right now if you're Jay Crawford. Like, they can't hide you in the depth chart. You're in the 2 deep off the rip, young man. Let's go do it. Let's see what you got, So if it's not him competing against Cam Coleman, he's got to go up against Cam Brown, right? If it's not Cam Brown, then it's going to be Perry Thompson. Somebody on that outside receiver spot that is a big body and is a beast. He's got to figure out how to compete against them every single practice. So going to be interesting to see. We talked about Antonio Kite, the transfer over from Bama. Amon Lane Gaines, who we haven't mentioned yet, but I want to get some thoughts on him, is there in that room. The guys who left out of the room, DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, of course, both of those guys got drafted up to the Seahawks. JD Rim, Colton Hood, and then Tony Hundley Jr. all gone from last season's squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think JD Rim transferring didn't surprise me, but again, it's much like everyone feels, Colton Hood transferring really hurt, because he was expected to actually get some burn this year. He was expected to be a huge contributor. So I was
very big on Colton Hood, man. Like, I don't know if y'all guys remember going into the spring, I was like, man, watch out for Colton Hood, because I liked what I saw from him in the bowl game. Right when I saw him competing in the bowl game, I was like, okay, yeah, he understands where he needs to be. He's gonna come up and he's gonna tackle physically. And he seemed like he was really solid. He doesn't look like the most athletic dude out there, but there's just something to be said about a guy who knows how to play the scheme. And Colton just seems like a guy who knew how to play the scheme, man. So I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to do this season. So I was definitely disappointed to see him transfer about.
Yeah, man. That was his first full year of football. He was a really high level baseball player. So like that, and that had a lot to do with his rankings too. So yeah, man, I think that hurt, but I think you really gotta hope for some good injury luck, right?
Right.
And I think that you can also adjust your scheme based on your guys. Now, Jay Crawford had yeah, man. So Cam Coleman gave it to him. All right, one was a coverage bust, and I think he was looking for safety help. The other one, Coleman just made a play. But if you remember last January when him and Coleman went head to head, and I think it was the Under Armour game, he comes up. He comes up with the one-hand interception on Coleman. Like, they fight. Now, it just happened on a bad stage so happy for him. But I think as far as being physical, he's probably one of the stronger DBs in that room already. Like, man, Jay Crawford's stronger as I don't know what. So I think that he's only going to get better. I think he could be this year's Kayan Lee. He's going to get thrown in the fire. He's got to take his lumps. But he's another one of those guys that he has that chip in his head where, bro, I'm good. And he walks around, he wakes up, I'm good. And as a cornerback, you got to have that chip in your head to say, I can do this. Because if you don't, you'll look at the tape and you'll go to Twitter and you'll go to the message boards and you're going to read that and believe that about yourself. But when you got that chip in your head that says, hey, I'm like that, you gotta have that. And I think that he has the physical tools. And I think one of the reasons that Auburn was so high on him, but if you notice, he was one of the earlier commits last year, is because of what he. You got to think last year at Parkview, he was going up against two of the better receivers in the state, Antonio Williams, who ended up going to Rutgers, who could have went to Auburn, but chose to stick with Rutgers, and Mike Matthews, who is probably the second best freshman in the SEC next to Cam Coleman when it comes to wide receiver.
Tennessee, right?
Yeah, went to Tennessee. He went crazy in the spring game just like Cam Coleman did. I think Cam Coleman got more coverage, but Mike Matthews was going to start at Tennessee, and he was going up against him every day in practice last year. So I think to answer that question in the chat, I forgot who said it, but they said who's the fourth cornerback. I think it's got to be Jay Crawford.
Yeah, I like Jay Crawford a lot. Just again, I get the opportunity to talk to some of the guys who are in the room, particularly in the wide receiver room. And Jay Crawford was a guy whose name kept coming up as, like you said, the way he competes, right? Like physical, like he's a guy who's one of the things that was a big knock for me, and he improved it in this last season for Nehemiah Pritchett, was just coming up in run support. Last year, Mighty came back. He was like, bro, he was looking for the smoke last year. I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to see. That was an issue that I had with DJ James. I didn't feel like DJ James really wanted to be out there, with a running back coming around the edge and go make a tackle. He had some opportunities where he did it sometimes he wouldn't do it, and he's a smaller guy, and I understand he's making business decisions out there every now and then. Crawford's not that dude. K.N. Lee's not that dude. Those guys are going to go out there and they're going to, the edge is good. they're going to be out there and they're going to compete.
And I can't wait to see them together because they played together a lot. 7-on-7, Hustle Link. Crawford was on one side. Ken Lee was on the other side. KJ Bolden at safety. That was probably the best 7-on-7. And Mike Matthews was the other safety. So that was probably the best 7-on-7 secondary I may have ever seen in the state. And I just think that the chemistry that those two had, and if you notice, their playing styles are kind of similar. They want to hit you. Like, bro, like it ain't no, oh, yeah, I'm a cornerback, pretty guy. No, they are rough, they rugged, they don't brush their hair sometimes. They them type of guys. They're not the pretty boy corners. No, they gutter, bro. I'm telling you now.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. But to your point earlier about Offord coming, he's that kind of player where it's like, bro, like, no. All the smoke, bring it right here.
Yeah,
so,
I think somebody said in the group, Dukes does Ken Lee. Anthony Rudd said, does he have any weaknesses? I think he's not as fast as you would like for somebody at his size, being like 5'11". You want to see a guy in that 4.4, hot in the low 4.4 range. I think he's more of a high 4.4, close to 4.5 guy. When we talk about football speed, he's going to be in every play. But if I had anything that he could work on, I would probably say, which is something that you can work on technique-wise, but, I mean, guys are blessed with 4.2 speed. If K. Lee was a 4.2, we talking about a top 5 corner with the way that he plays. Like, he's like that. But I think, that's the only thing I can really see. Not as long as you would like that cornerback, right? A little bit undersized, but I just think that's what makes him, that fight in him.
Yeah, but listen, every opportunity that he has had that I've seen where he was in position, the ball skills, man, like it was the one situation last year they initially threw the flag on him coming over the top and getting the PBU, but like when you go back and watch the play, he cleared everybody, bro. I'm like, yeah, he understands how to attack the football when it's in the air, and that's something that I mean, you can teach that, but some guys just have it, and he just kind of just has it, man. Like he just has the ability to go and attack it when it's in there, and he competes really well. Like he's not going to be a guy that if it's there aren't a lot of DBs at his size that compete against back shoulder throws as well as he does.
Man, when I liken it to how Charles Barkley was 6'4" and able to rebound. There's a certain innate ability that people have in order to position themselves and anticipate where the ball is going to be. And you can't take many false steps when you're undersized. He has that ability. Right. It's just like he has a sixth sense of where to be and how to position himself to where you won't be able to fully extend, and his extension as long as possible. So that way, and so that way he can actually compete for the ball in a way that somebody longer than him would be. Did he?
Your thoughts about Keontae, man? Keontae is playing on the outside exclusively this year. Thoughts about that? Obviously, we know what work he can do when he's playing in the slot, but he's the outside guy this time. But you think how do we project Keontae is going to perform this year? Obviously, he's a talented guy, but what our thoughts about him in this position exclusively?
I think it's a potential move, right? I think it's something that's going to help him in the long run. And I think you may have a few bumps along the road because he may not be as much of a natural corner because he's played so much in other places in the secondary. But I think that when all cylinders are firing, you're not going to find a guy more athletic than him, a guy that can do everything like he can. And I just think that I think he'll be fine. I think Auburn's corners, depth-wise, it's not the greatest. But they won't be the weak link in that room. And usually for the past few years, Auburn's DB room has been the strength. So I think Keontae have a decent season. I'm not going to be surprised to see some downs, but I think there'll be a lot more ups than downs. And I think as that learning curve starts to kind of flatten a little bit as the season goes on, because he's starting to get those reps and seeing different styles of different receivers, noticing different offenses, and one thing I do like about playing a slot versus the perimeter is that there's more east-west motion in the slot that you have to be prepared for. And I think that helps you on the perimeter when you begin to flip your hips. So I think that that's something that's going to help him. If you look at him when he's returning punts, he definitely has a little wiggle to him. So that's going to be helpful to him on the perimeter. I just think that I think the most important thing is knowing when they hit that switch and to go full speed, knowing when to turn on the afterburners, because you have to play at a controlled pace on the perimeter, because one false step, we even, I'm leaving. So I think that that's going to be important as far as the nuances of playing cornerback and knowing when, hey, is this a double move, that stutter step, the dead leg, when he sticks, what am I doing? I think those are the small things as he learns that's going to make him a better cornerback in a potential NFL. I think he could be a day 2 pick if he has a season that we're looking for. He runs well.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern is what you said for me is the risk taking, right? Like we've seen him as a punt returner. He is the guy that wants to make a play every play, right? Like every play is an opportunity for him to make a play. So if he sees like, oh man, I'm finna jump this route, the double move might be a problem for him out there. And so he's got to Duke's point, man, you got to be disciplined. And the discipline might be something that he's got to develop in reps out there, because he's not used to being on that island. Even though this is the one thing, and y'all know that Keontae is my guy, right? Like I've been a Keontae Scott fan from the minute he stepped on the plains. But he wanted this responsibility this year. Like he lobbied for the opportunity to play on the outside. And so similarly to what we talk about some of these other guys, when you just kind of want that and you have that desire to compete in that way, you're going to have the upper hand on most of the guys that you're going to go against. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with some of the more elite receivers. Like if he's going to have the opportunity against Missouri to go up against a Luther Burden. Now they like to play Luther Burden in the slot a little bit more, just because they like to give him, they like to do like some free releases for him so they can't get hands on him. But if he's on the outside, is he going to have the opportunity to compete against a Luther Burden? When you think when you look at Auburn's schedule, like who's the elite receivers though that are on the schedule this year? Oklahoma might have one, but there aren't a lot of elite receivers that Auburn's going to have to face this season on the outside.
I don't know what Georgia's returning.
Does Georgia only have like elite receivers?
Ra pretty good. Dylan Bell is a draft pick. I know for a fact. He's a sleeper. He's really good route running, Dylan Bell. But as far as elite, if you're talking first round type guys, I don't think in the conference you got Luther Burden. Who we got? Kentucky got a real they got a real explosive guy who I think could hurt us, Barry and Brown. Like he's lightning in the bottle. So
I think Arkansas's guys are more shifty than they are, anything else.
Ole Miss got Juice Wells. Oh, we don't play Ole Miss.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You don't play Ole Miss this season. You don't play LSU this season.
That's just not on our schedule.
Right. Like you don't play Tennessee this season. Right. And I think
we don't got Tennessee either. I mean,
No.
Auburn don't have Tennessee either.
Nah.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
You got the schedule? Let's look at it.
I do not have it like as a.
Okay.
I have it like available to me, but and I can rattle it off. I know exactly who the schedule is: A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Louisiana Monroe, Texas A&M, Bama.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, really, right now, Berrien Brown scares me. Luther Burden scares me. The boy from Oklahoma scares me, and that's the real top flight scary guys, like that I think that Auburn would have a problem with. If I just had to name 3 schools just off the top of my head, knowing Alabama's guys, they're gonna be. I mean, Alabama's gonna reload a receiver. They're gonna be fine. But yeah, I guess it's not a murderer's row of receivers, right?
That's kind of the point I'm going at. Like, if you're saying there's going to be 4 games out of the season where he's really going to have to like deal with a top talent as an outside receiver, and again, some of these guys get moved around a lot, so it's not like he's going to be competing with them. It's not like how it was with Roger McCreary when he had to go against who is it, Jameson Williams. Right? Like it's not like, okay, every play I got him. They're not going to be doing that kind of situation with Keontae. So I think he'll be fine. And then, what really allows for cornerbacks to flourish in this system that DJ Durkin runs is how well the front 7 plays. And that's going to be really the key. Is your front 7 going to make it where you can afford to make a mistake every now and then because the quarterback doesn't have time to figure out where the rush is coming from or sit in the pocket and really dissect what's happening? So if the front 7 is going to play well, then that's even better for a guy who's a risk taker like Keontae Scott, who's like, all right, I just jumped this route right here and we're good, because he got to throw hot.
Right. No, for real. I like that. Yeah.
Let's get to some of the comments here before we get out of here. Anthony Rudd asks, Dukes, could Caleb Harris step in for Scott?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that earlier. Like, I think more so Caleb Harris will probably be able to slide into the star position in a pinch, and that way you could probably move a guy like Champ Anthony, who may be a little more well suited for that at this point.
Exclusive TV says, only concern I have is man coverage and tackling.
I ain't tripping on the tackling.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't know that I'm worried about tackling from this DB unit. Man coverage, as long as your front 7 is doing their job, I'm not super concerned about that either. I think that the guys are sticky. When we did the DJ Durkin film review, we talked about a lot of the cushion that they give in this Durkin system. So I'm more concerned about if you have quarterbacks or play callers that are patient enough to just get you 3-4 yard quick routes. Then you have your DBs, and we just go back to what I said about Keontae Scott. Are they patient enough to just let it develop in front of them, go rally and tackle, or are they going to start trying to jump routes?
It's not a press. It's not a press coverage.
They don't play a lot of press man in the Durkin system. Nah, I mean, they'll go to it every now and then, and usually it's going to be a combo coverage, though, right? So like one side might be playing press man, the other side is playing a lot of off coverage. So it just kind of depends.
Gotcha. Okay. TK says Amon Lanyanis, 10.700 meters. Okay.
Yeah. He's a burner as well. Yeah, he's a burner as well. He's a guy I think he might be a little slept on in this class as far.
Is he a summer enrollee? Was he a summer enrollee?
Yeah, okay. He wasn't here during the fall, and so like that's really the only reason why I think a lot of people aren't talking about him. But when I do go and watch his tape and watch him compete in some of the all-star situations, he's a really sticky corner. Like he really has the fluidity to be able to turn and run with guys. He's got the speed to be able to close on guys. So I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a very solid contributor. He doesn't jump anybody in the depth chart, but he's going to be a quality guy that you need to have as a piece in case you need him.
Aaron Robinson asks, Ike, is it true Thompson, as in Jarian Thompson, will be the star?
No, he's not going to play star. He's going to be one of the safeties. And Coach Hugh Freeze says that he's pretty much quarterback in the defense on the back end back there. So
Yeah,
we'll
he's gonna play
definitely
field safety.
yeah, we'll get into the safety room probably on the next breakdown. But yeah, he's not playing the star though. No.
Brett Browning says if Durkin can scheme the front, and you've said this already, Ike, the front six, the seven, well, the DBs will be fine, barring injury.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And hopefully, we've already with Scott being injured, we've already, I think I said his name right. We've already had all the injuries we're going to have. Auburn would have all the injuries they're going to have this season. So hopefully, no more of those. Exclusive TV says, appreciate the super chat, by the way. He says, I'm really high on Jerry and Thompson.
Yeah, I think Jaron Thompson, listen, again, Coach Freeze talked about him at media days as being the vocal leader in that defensive backfield, a guy who's getting people lined up. If you were on with me, I guess that was yesterday when we did office hours, I talked a little bit about people may not like the comparison, but from a football standpoint, he's very much a Zion Puckett kind of guy who knew where he was supposed to be, knew where everybody else was supposed to be all the time, right? And he if you could turn on the tape versus for him playing Texas, he didn't play a lot of snaps, but he would miss tackles every now and then, a la Zion Puckett, right? But he was always going to understand the scheme, understand where he needed to be. And that's important for a guy playing as a safety. And he's got the physicality. He doesn't have a problem coming up and doing what he needs to do. So hopefully he will continue to grow in that. And again, if the front seven's doing his thing, no, you ain't got to worry about it. He's not going to be out there on the island. And you think about like coverage wise, as the safety position of what he's going to be doing. How often? I mean, who are the big tight end threats? I don't even know the answers to this one. Who are the big tight end threats that he might have to be out there in coverage against? You got the kid Haas from Arkansas that I think was a pretty good receiving tight end. But the better tight ends in this conference, Auburn's not playing against them during the regular season, right? So I don't know. We'll see.
Exclusive TV says, put Ike on Farouk. He locking him down.
On Farouk. Who is Farouk?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
but it was a super chat, so I had to read it. Okay. All right. C. Harvin says, real question is, will opposing offensive linemen have time to get the ball? QB to get the ball to their wide receivers. The front seven may be nasty this year.
I'm high. Listen, I'm higher on the front seven than a lot of people are. I've heard a lot of people talk about Auburn maybe not having the quality depth up front. Coach Hugh Freeze says he thinks that he has 6 that he can rotate, and I mean it's only 3 spots up there, right? You're talking about a nose / interior D tackle. You got your other D tackle, and you got your defensive end, and he has 6 guys that he feels like he can rotate. That's enough to be able to go out there and compete consistently. And then the question is, who's going to be the second guy behind J-Mac out there at that edge position? And there are some talented guys that can be out there. And I haven't seen them yet very much, but Kieron Crawford, I've seen some or heard some good things about him. So I'm not worried about that. And then the linebackers between Austin Keys and Eugene Asante, like you've got 2 beasts starting out there, and then you've got some really good guys falling in behind them. We talked about the linebacker core. I think the front seven will be all right.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead, Dukes.
No, I was saying I was agreeing. That's it.
BZ says, is Kelly a man or zone guy?
Well, I mean, it's not Kelly's defense first and foremost. So like he's not going to just decide on his own whether or not guys are going to be playing man or zone. But it's, it's a mixed scheme. Like they're not just playing one thing. So I'd say yes, both. I think he likes guys that can play man, right? Like he wants guys. Same thing with Wesley McGriff. Like they want guys that can go out there and compete as a man corner so that they don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. But Durkin's going to mix it up. He's going to do some man. They're going to be a very multiple in the ways that they're going to attack teams this season, mixing up the coverages quite a bit.
All right, all right. Any closing thoughts, gentlemen, about this secondary recruiting? Anything? I know we've lamented about the concern about the depth for this unit, but it's a very talented unit. So I'm excited to see how these guys perform. It's got a lot of opportunity for new faces to kind of assert themselves with some of our more senior cornerbacks going off to the league or transferring out. Our thoughts about this unit as a whole. Been one of the strengths, but it's a bit of a transition year of sorts. So our thoughts overall before we get out of here.
I think it's a solid unit. I think the biggest issue again for me is going to be depth, as far as experience depth. And you do worry about whether or not you have enough bodies, but if they've got the kind of guys that they feel like they can move around to different spots, then you're not as worried about that. But I like the prospects of the DB room, but still a lot of work. I think before I need to see a little bit more before I'm like, oh yeah, they really finna be out here clowning. So, but yeah, to me, it's
There's
gonna be
a
about that front seven.
There's this. I think the schedule sets up really good for them too, because you got a few games to warm up, kind of get a feel for the game before it really gets real by like what week 4, week 5 when
Yeah, I think
Arkansas,
week 5 is
Oklahoma comes in.
Oklahoma is going to challenge that defense. Like,
Yeah,
they're going to want to throw it around a lot with Oklahoma. I talked to some folks down there at media days about Jackson Arnold, and he's a bit of a gunslinger kind of guy. So he's going to want to air it out. And so you're going to get your opportunities with the ball in the air as a defensive back group. But I haven't gone and done any film review on Cal yet. I don't think that that's a team that's going to be like, I think they're going to lean more on their run game and play action game to try to open things up with Jaden Ott there.
right.
And athletically, the other 2 games in that first 3, A&M, New Mexico, there's just no reason why you should have to be worried about that. Arkansas is going to actually probably be a lot more QB run action, and they're going to use that as a play. Because I watched some tape on the, and we'll talk more about all of this stuff. But yeah, game 5 is really where you're going to get into spread them out, throw the ball around for the first time in the season. So that you'll start to really see what you got in your defensive back unit after that. Georgia, they're gonna throw it around with Carson this year. I think they're gonna let it loose. You already know Missouri's gonna throw it around a bunch.
Right.
Kentucky probably not as much. More gonna be more control run game type stuff. Texas A&M's gonna throw it around a bit. Not Virginia, but Vanderbilt, I really don't even know what to expect. I mean, I know what that offense looked like last year with New Mexico, but do they have the ability to go in there and make it happen up front? Or is he going to have to be a miracle worker? What's the kid's name that was New Mexico State QB that went over there?
Was it Nico something?
No, I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about. But yeah, is he going to have to be a miracle worker out there because the offensive line can't protect? That's yet to be seen. And then Pavia, thank you, Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
And then Alabama, that scheme is meant to throw the ball around a lot. Are they going to have the confidence to by that time, will they have built the confidence in to let the QB throw it around a lot is the question. Because Milroe's got an arm, but be clear, that offense where they tried to make him a stand in the pocket, multiple read guy, that's when he struggled last season early. When they started lessening the reads and really letting him run a little bit so he could use his legs, that's when he became more successful as a passer because he was utilizing his legs more often as a function of the offense. So the question is, can he operate the offense in that way that he'll be the threat with his arms? That's yet to be seen. So, I mean, you really, again, 3 or 4 teams where you're really going to be challenging your defensive back unit as far as we're going to line up and throw the ball a lot. That's why I said the front 7 is going to be the key because they have to be able to control what's happening to make these teams say, okay, I don't want to, but now I got to throw
it. Dukes, your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man. I think really, like I said, it's a depth issue with me. I think it's a really talented room. I think it's one you'll be hard pressed to find 2 top 2s better than 2 duos better than Keontae and Kayan. I think they're a really good duo. but it's just they're really top heavy. The schedule does kind of lend to help out a little bit where you don't have as many of the elite receivers as you guys have pointed out. But I think that is on the front. I think this is the year where the parity in the defense comes along, where as the defensive secondary has been the strength for so long. Now, hopefully, we get to see the front the strength and take some stress off of the secondary, off of the back end.
Yeah.
And I think the safeties are going to be important in the zone scheme. I think your safeties allow you as cornerbacks to play a lot more freely. And I think the range that these safeties have and their ability is going to be really important. And I think turnovers are going to be huge. If it's nothing else that I like about this secondary, it's the ball skills. I think that by creating turnovers, you lessen the time that you have to be in coverage, and people get afraid and they start to say, well, we know if we play with him, what's going to happen. So I think if you can start to kind of, if you look at the season Jalen Simpson had, even though he was playing safety, if you notice the respect that he started to garner as the season went on, that was one of the places that you didn't want to go with the ball. So I think if early on you can get the ball rolling with some early turnovers and some good plays in coverage, I think that'll be really huge for the secondary and especially the cornerbacks going forward. And before I get out, man, I got to give a shout out to Charles Blunt, Bay 4 Day for sure.
For sure. Hopefully it'll be another no-fly zone in the secondary in 2024 for Auburn. Definitely looking forward to see how they compete and how they will look this upcoming season. We will definitely come back in the future live and discuss the safeties position. Mentioned a few guys tonight, but we'll go more in depth about that position group at a later time. Ike, tell the people how they can get a green name or gift a green name, sir.
Pretty simple. There's a join button down there below the video. Hit that button, decide at which level you want to be able to support. And we appreciate everybody, even if you're not green name. I know we put a lot of emphasis on green name, man, but we appreciate everybody who falls through here. Even if you do not have a green name, we appreciate you coming. But if you are a green name and you want to gift it to somebody else, we didn't get any gifted memberships today. A little disappointed in that, I'm not going to lie. I was hoping we at least get, 5, 10 gifted memberships, but you can gift a membership before you get out of here. Somebody get a free month of membership on you. Make sure you lock in with the network. We are the War Report Podcast Network. We are podding at Auburn Express. We got the Up Tempo Podcast, College Loop Podcast, Just a Sec Podcast for all of your SEC-wide stuff. And we got content popping over there on the War Report Gaming channel. My guy Dustin is out there running his Road to Glory right now with his players, so y'all can go over there and check out the War Report Gaming Network over there on that side. And then as well, shout out to the folks at manscaped.com, code REPORT. The folks at JOYMODE, use joymode.com, also code REPORT for 20% off and free shipping on their products.
Duke, how can they check you out, man? How can people get in touch with you and check out your content and what you got going on?
Oh, at Dukes the Scoop, Instagram and Twitter. And look, man, hey, everybody in the comments, tell Ike, Caesar, Mike, all of them, tell them to hire me. Like ASAP. Tell them bring it home. Tell them to hire me, bro. For sure.
If you don't knock it. We're trying to ask you to hire us, man. What you talking about? Listen, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Appreciate you coming through, hanging out with us, Dukes, talks of football and recruiting. If you enjoyed this content, want other people to get access to it, please be sure to share it wherever you can, social media, message boards, wherever. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're on X and IG at The War Report. Find us on TikTok at TW Report. That's it for now, guys. But we will definitely, if things pop off this weekend, you may see a special live. That remains to be seen. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, War Eagle.